Hey, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Amanda, and this is Beyond a Ballot.
Hello, and welcome to a surprise episode of Beyond a Ballot. I'm Rachel here with Amanda. Hello, fancy seeing you here.
Here we are, middle of July, a lot going on.
I cannot even believe that this has been the craziest summer. It's so crazy we had to come back. Like, that's how politics is going in this world right now.
It's so nuts. It's like, I likened it to watching like your favorite series. Like, you know how everyone's watching Presumed Innocent right now?
No,
okay,
but I should be.
You must.
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Watch
really?
it. Okay. This series is such a nail biter that like you either have to binge it so that you can watch it episode after episode. But I feel like what is happening in politics is exactly like that. It's a nail biter and you don't know what's going to happen next and you're on the edge of your seat. And I don't think this is just because we're really into politics. I mean, I think the whole world is interested in this right now.
Totally. I said to you, I was at the gym the other day and this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Where's your podcast?" And I've been waiting for your I'm like, what?
Right.
We have to go back because the amount of people that wanted to really get the 411 on everything that's been happening all over the world is crazy. So here we are today to set the stage for breaking down everything that's happened.
Yeah. And you and I have been talking a lot, sort of like offline, right?
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot, and we've been doing some media interviews on these topics. But it didn't make sense for us to leave the podcast out of this truly historic conversation, because I don't think we've ever seen 2 weeks like this in history. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe we should start from 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
With the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump, which is still the most bananas thing. So I'll tell you what happened to me. I was away kind of in cottage country when the news popped up. And it was one of those, you know how you'll always remember the news when Princess Diana died, or like Michael Jackson, like
September 11th.
You always remember where you are. And I'll never forget, I almost dropped my phone because when I first read it, I thought it read that he was assassinated.
Oh my God.
Oh yes.
That would.
Oh yes. But then quickly I realized that he wasn't. But I mean, I don't think that there's anyone in the world who doesn't know the story. But just to recap, attempted assassination at a rally. The shooter was on a rooftop, shot at the former president, killed one person who was in the audience. The former president was clipped in the ear. He was quickly grounded by security. He rose in what can only be described as, one of the most epic shots ever, with his fist raised in the air as he was apparently yelling out the words "fight" before he was whisked away and the shooter was killed. And we've learned a lot since then, but I think that's kind of the basic recap of what happened at the rally.
Yeah. And the interesting part is we have learned a lot since then, but we still don't really know the motive of this shooter. And I think also we've seen over the last week or so that the Secret Service and the FBI have been testifying in Congress in Washington. And we saw the head of the Secret Service resign over this. But we still don't know what happened, really, how it was possible that a former president, and for context, in the Canadian context, there's protection for presidents, full protection. Like, once you've been president, you get Secret Service with you at all times, but also a former president who is now running again for president and who is such a controversial figure. It's unbelievable to me that was an oversight, that they didn't realize that there was this elevated platform which had direct sight lines to the former president. Like, how does that happen?
It was remarkable.
That's what I can't get over.
And in this case, I would say both parties were united in their condemnation of the Secret Service, which is why the director, was really forced to resign after she appeared at a hearing, a scathing hearing.
Scathing. Watch
hearing.
it.
It was watch it. If you get the chance, there's a lot of clips on YouTube. You can watch a few moments of it, and that'll give you a good sense of what the entire thing was like.
Yeah, but the interesting thing also for me was the polling.
Yes.
Already, so we didn't even go back to the Joe Biden Donald Trump debate, which was, I believe, the week before, where President Biden was, I would say, not having his best night. I was personally sitting there waiting for him to fall down or something. Yeah. My heart was racing as somebody who's prepped a lot of politicians for those types of things. He was in his own head. He was spacey. He wasn't answering direct questions. So, as a strategist, I was freaking out. And then after that, we saw his numbers just dip in the polls. The Trump numbers go way up. And then after the assassination attempt, it wasn't even really a two-party race anymore. Right. It was like Donald Trump was doing so well.
We thought, well, this is it. Because
this is it.
There was such a huge lift for the Trump campaign. There were headlines that took excerpts from his speech, things like, I took a bullet for democracy.
Right.
The Republican National Convention, was that weekend, and he was walking around with a bandaged ear, and there were many people in the crowd who were also had bandaged ears in solidarity. It was a very strange, but the point was that after Biden's poor performance and after this monumental moment where it really appeared, obviously was, that Trump had just narrowly escaped death, there was just a surgence of energy around him and momentum around the Trump campaign, which of course then started this enormous echo chamber of this call for Biden to step aside.
I keep going back to that moment of the assassination and thinking, assassination attempt, and thinking, how did he have the foresight to really raise his fist in the air and imagine almost losing your life? His shoes fell off, the Secret Service took him down. And then he gets up and he thinks, I need to portray strength. What an incredible candidate he is. His ability to campaign, holy moly, that he had that thought to do that.
Yeah, it was
to really reframe that so quickly.
It was like it was a script written for a movie.
Yeah.
You can't, to have just so narrowly, a razor thin margin between life and death. Yeah. And then to think of the photo op in that moment.
I know.
That would appear on virtually every newspaper, local and national, across the globe. Truly.
Yeah.
And that image will be permanently imprinted in people's minds. The image of him, love it or hate it. And, exactly. I looked at it and I thought it was reprehensible that in that moment he raised his fist to call out fight. It just goes to the core, I think, of who he is and his natural kind of terrifying instinct. But it was really, in terms of showmanship, you could not, if you were a Republican campaign leader, you couldn't have asked for a better image following that assassination attempt.
So I didn't find it reprehensible. I found it very American.
Yes,
I thought
that too.
The U.S. is so much about the freedom and the power. And even when we've been hearing Biden talk over the last couple of weeks, it's about the strength of America. And so for me, it was less about, Donald Trump, the candidate that was raising his fist in the air, and more about Donald Trump, the former prime minister, former president of the United States, showing the strength of America. Because at that point, they didn't know who this person was. They didn't know if this was an American or somebody connected with terrorism, an assassination attempt, a Secret Service person whose gun went off by accident. There was no context at that point. But the number one message that came out of that moment was, you're going to try and take us down and we are going to come back stronger. And that is such an American concept, I think.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
So let's move on to Biden and what happened. Because after that attempt, I mean, I can't even imagine what the Biden campaign started to think about. They were already dealing with a president who said he was staying there for the long haul, and then repeatedly claimed that he was going to stay. The numbers were going down and down. Trump then, like you mentioned, a couple of days later, had all the eyes around the world at the Republican National Convention, which happens, I think it's every year in the US. And later on, we'll see the Democrat National Convention as well later on in the summer. But that RNC changed drastically after the assassination attempt and really became about the strength of America. President Trump came out and brought the uniform of the firefighter who had been killed at his rally.
Yeah.
He kissed it. He talked about that family.
Yes.
And there was really a huge push for this narrative, again, of strength and moving on, while at the same time, it was a great strategic contrast to the Biden campaign because they were kind of looking weak. They had a candidate that was having, I don't know, they've never said that he had health issues, but it was having some kind of problem communicating. And so it was working for them.
For sure. And what you saw over those following days was just the mounting pressure from top Democrats asking for Biden to step aside. And despite that, we saw Biden again and again say to reporters, make this declaration, I'm in it to win it. We even saw celebrities come out. There were op-eds in papers, George Clooney, others, and it just felt like such an enormous pile-on. And you're watching from the sidelines thinking, how does he survive this? And ultimately, he didn't, right?
He didn't.
Ultimately,
and
he couldn't. I mean, you have this president that was almost taken out by a bullet, standing there with his fist in the air seconds later saying, fight, the strength juxtaposed with a candidate who couldn't even really answer questions properly on a stage. Yeah.
How do the American people vote on that?
Exactly.
And I think that I'd love to be a fly on the wall of the conversations that they had with President Biden, but ultimately I think he made the right decision in deciding not to run again.
A big decision, because I think, maybe you know the answer to this, I think that this has only occurred a couple of times in American history, right? Where a president hasn't sought re-election.
So this is the third one in the last century.
Wow.
The first one, LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, who took over when President Kennedy was assassinated. He was his vice president. And the other one was one of the Roosevelts. I think Franklin Roosevelt. No, I'm lying to you. Truman. Truman was the last one who decided not to run again. But interestingly, Lyndon B. Johnson, and I talked about this on Instagram, as President Biden announced he wasn't running, 1968, they said that his polling was so low that he couldn't win the election. And so he ended up not running again and bringing in a new person, ultimately Richard Nixon.
Right.
His opponent ended up winning, not the guy that replaced him. I don't even remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he did it. LBJ did it earlier in the process. It was much earlier. So this is quite a timeline for the Democrats. With that said, I mean, I can only imagine what the polling was saying about Kamala Harris and her coming in, because what we've seen over the last, 5 days, 6 days is unbelievable.
Okay. So let's before we talk about the best news ever, let's just a couple of other things that happened.
I got too excited.
I know, it's so exciting. It's so exciting. One was that President Trump also announced his running mate.
Yes,
JD Vance.
Who has a connection to Canada. Did you know that?
I did know that. Yes.
His roommate in law school and best friend is a Canadian politician, an MP. So maybe if they get in, that'll be good news for Canada.
Yes, maybe.
Instead of some of the challenges we had with the last Trump administration. Really.
That happened at the Republican convention. So again, there was a lot of momentum, right? A lot of Trump momentum. Assassination attempt followed by, bringing on this young, very Republican.
Very Republican. We're so Canadian.
Republican.
Oh my God.
Candidate for VP. And then the pressure mounts. The Democrats are all over Biden. And what felt again like a shocking moment. Did you feel like it was a shocking moment when you heard that he was stepping aside?
So it's so funny because I think that I'm like the lightning rod of politics for a lot of the people in my life. Okay. And so my phone was blowing up on Sunday morning. It was morning here in Vancouver. And I was like, what is happening? I actually thought it was Trudeau. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I was like, what's
not
going
Trudeau
on?
was calling her. Just the news about Trudeau.
Trudeau doesn't call me very often, but I thought maybe Trudeau had resigned or something big had happened in Canada. And then, you know what? Honestly, I put in the Beyond a Ballot newsletter on Thursday that I thought there was going to be a resignation that weekend. My gut was telling me that because in the US it's a different system. I mean, their media is so much more vast than ours.
Right.
The systems behind their political parties, and it's like a whole different world down there. And I knew that as soon as there was speculation by one legitimate media outlet that this resignation might be coming, that it was going to happen. And so I actually thought it was going to happen on Saturday because that's kind of a good time to let out news like that. People, especially the height of the summer.
Yeah.
And especially because President Biden decided not to speak and announce it at that moment, that he was going to wait to address the nation. So it didn't happen Saturday. I thought, okay, maybe this isn't going to happen. Maybe they are going to go with Biden. Or they're still having a hard time convincing him. Sunday morning, it happened. And I thought, wow, as much as I was prepared for it, it was still a bit of they had no other option. That's how I felt.
They had no other option, but it was still shocking because he had come out on so many occasions over the course of that week to say, I am definitely in. So when he was suddenly out, it was like, oh my God, again. Like,
I know.
crazy. And then, of course, everyone's attention immediately turned to Kamala because he also provided an endorsement to her. And that, and then all eyes were suddenly focused on her. And here we are now getting the chance to talk about another enormously historic moment, the potential for the first woman president, the first woman of color in that seat. This is big, big, big news for all of us on Beyond Ballot, but just in general, it's been crazy news. And the reason why it's been so crazy is because the shifts that have occurred between those two parties over the course of 10 days, again,
10 days,
we have never seen anything like this. The Democrats, kind of down in the polls, down in the dumps, no energy, no momentum, lack of fundraising dollars. Suddenly, Kamala announces that she's going to run with this and everything turns. Tell everyone what happened next.
So for context, I have loved Kamala Harris for probably 10 years. When she was announced as the VP, I was in a doctor's waiting room and I actually screamed out loud and they were like, are you okay? I'm like, Kamala Harris is the vice president. Like, it was crazy. So, and that's not because I'm a Democrat or because I lean one way or the other. I personally feel like I have really no horse in this race except for the Canadian impact that it'll have. So like a Trump presidency might have more of an impact on Canada only because of what we had with him last time. But Kamala, for me, is really a special candidate. And she's somebody that I've rooted for many, many years. And so once it was starting to be announced that Biden might step down, I started to wonder about who they might pick. And people kept asking me, like, who would replace Joe?
Mm-hmm.
One of the big things, and this is an interesting law in the United States, was around the fundraising.
Yes.
And so people kept saying to me, and I wasn't sure if it was true. Ultimately, I found out it is true, that when people donate to the Biden-Harris campaign, that money belongs to either Biden or Harris. Technically, it's Biden, but there have been exceptions, and it's okay to go to Harris. But if there was another person that was running that wasn't on that ticket that was donated to, then they would have a problem using those funds. And we saw a couple of days ago, what ultimately happened is that the Trump campaign has launched a formal legal challenge of Kamala Harris using that money, but which many people think will be fine, that it's not going to actually go anywhere.
And this wasn't a small amount of money. This was at the time $96 million.
That's
which has
right.
grown
But
significantly.
And what's interesting is that she was able to double
it
on her own.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy. That is a ton of money, especially when we're comparing to Canada. Like, we have caps, and we would never even look at $100 million.
But
it's
do you feel like, let me ask you this, because you're a Kamala Harris fan.
I am. Yeah.
But I would say that I feel like and I'm a fan too, but I feel like she sort of underperformed as a VP, or at least didn't get the kind of attention that I was anticipating. And so my initial reaction was like, uh-oh, is this going to be enough for the Democrats? And the response has been so overwhelmingly crazy positive that it's almost framing her in a brand new light. Are you feeling that way as well?
I started to just think about Veep, the show.
Oh, yeah,
when you started talking about that. Have you watched it?
Yes.
For those wondering, that's the most accurate portrayal of political staffing you'll ever find, and you should all watch
except for
it.
The West Wing, which...
No, it's so much more accurate than The West Wing.
I thought The West Wing was so good. I love The West Wing.
Episode where they're choosing her ice cream flavor, and then it takes them 4 days, and she decides on vanilla, and she goes to the ice cream store, and they don't have vanilla, and then they all start panicking, and crisis comms managing. It's like, that is politics in a nutshell.
It totally is.
But I think about that Veep, because the role of vice president is really complicated in the U.S. It's definitely secondary to the president themselves. They have no veto powers. Their role under the Constitution is very different from president. Kamala Harris had years of leadership roles, and I really, in my gut, think that her getting the spotlight, her being the first name on the ticket, will really empower her to come forward and define this campaign for herself. And so I agree with you. I think that she was definitely more demure than I would have ever anticipated in this role. But I often wonder if that's by virtue of the role itself. Like, think about President Biden under Obama. We talked a lot about President Obama. Biden was there, but even at the time, John Kerry, who was the foreign affairs minister, what's it called in the U.S., the Secretary of State, got to brush up on that before November, was way more front and center, I would argue, than Biden was. The vice president is really the president in waiting, and they're there to support the president's efforts. So I'm interested to see how she comes into this, how she builds this campaign. And honestly, watching her campaign, Kamala HQ on Twitter,
follow that.
She's leaning into the youth vote. She went to a sorority yesterday to talk to women, and leaning into all of these groups that kind of have been ignored in the political system over many, many decades. So I'm totally excited about the campaign itself.
Me too. So she's, it's extremely early days. She's the presumptive candidate or nominee because she has shored up enough Democratic delegates, but they will not formalize that until August. I think it's end of August, middle of August, something like that.
Okay. Here's my 2 questions. 1, will somebody come and challenge her?
No.
Regardless of the fact at the convention? And 2, who will she put on the ticket with her?
Oh my gosh, this is such a big question. So I talked about this the other day when we were doing some radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of agree, because I know one of the things that you were saying on our phone conversations is like,
Yeah.
could it be 2 women on the ticket?
Right.
Which, wowza, that would have been big. But I don't think it's going to happen. Do you still feel like it could happen?
I'm starting to really feel the groundswell for Pete Buttigieg.
I can
Mayor
never say
Pete?
his last name.
Buttigieg?
Yeah.
Have you watched his movie, Mayor Pete?
No, I haven't.
There's a whole documentary
I
about him.
I know,
Oh,
but
it is.
I haven't seen it.
It's a fabulous. It's really. He's a wonderful human being, according to this movie. But I am starting to feel that he's getting closer, along with some of the male governors.
So a couple of things
Mm-hmm.
that I think are interesting about, like, how do you pick a running mate? It's not like your buddy, it's like,
Yeah.
how do you pick a running mate? And usually there are a few considerations. The most important one, I think, is contrast. It's like, what can you bring to the ticket that I don't currently have?
Totally.
So often they look to battleground states. So states that are incredibly important to winning the election and somebody who represents in that state.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important consideration. They may look to things like faith or gender or race as another reason to bring in a particular kind of vote. So she's obviously a woman. She's a woman of color.
Mm-hmm.
I think she'll choose a man. I think she'll choose a white man from one of the battleground states. And there's been a few names that have been talked about. Joel Shapiro, Andy Beshear. So Joel Shapiro, Pennsylvania. Andy Beshear, Kentucky governor, who really kind of brings those that Christian vote to the table. You have a couple of your own favorites. And one of the things that I think is interesting about you is you were saying this to me this week. You're like, what if it was 2 women?
Yeah. Could you imagine?
I know. Do you still think that or no?
I hope that. I love when people push boundaries in politics. I love firsts in politics. So I'm rooting for it. But I always listen to the US commentary. And like I said earlier, like they're so orchestrated. Nothing gets leaked without full 100% plan behind it. And I'm just feeling like there's so many male governors in the US that are really getting a lot of airtime, that are making a lot of statements that would have me thinking that they're in the running. I think I saw a list somewhere of the people that she's vetting. There was only one woman on that list, and that woman has already, Gretchen Whitmer. She's already announced she's going to co-chair Kamala's campaign, so that makes me think probably not. Shapiro is a good guess, but he is Jewish, and that's actually coming into play a lot when we talk about Israel and Gaza. And we saw this week with Prime Minister Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, speaking to Congress and meeting with Kamala Harris and President Biden. So many protests, such wild behavior, burning of American flags. And I just think that putting Shapiro on that ticket would ignite a really sensitive issue within the Democratic caucus. He'd be great because Pennsylvania is a huge state. If you can win Pennsylvania, you're doing well. So
exactly.
I'm not sure who it's going to be. Mayor Pete Buttigieg is discussed a lot. He's been on camera, but he is gay, and that may come into play only because you're right. I think when they look at Trump and they look at how right he's become and how his pick of JD Vance, it really moved that Republican ticket even more right.
Absolutely.
And so who Kamala Harris's campaign is going to try and pick up are the center. And in order to do that, they need people that maybe are religious, but more open to voting Democrat. And so that religious question for me is probably the most interesting when looking at a VP for her.
Yeah. And there's also, people have talked a lot about, when you think about like ones to watch with the Democrats, Gavin Newsom is a big name, but from the same state.
Isn't that a crazy fact?
Which is, Yeah.
You can't
so tell us about, how does that work?
Oh, this is like my jam. I love this fun fact. One of my Instagram followers flagged this for me first and foremost. So shout out to him. But you cannot have a ticket where the president and vice presidential candidate are both from the same state, and both of them are from California. That said, Gavin Newsom's also very divisive in California.
Yes, it's true.
Loves taxes. So
probably not him. So you don't have a best guess?
You know, I love betting. I know. Stressed about this.
I know. I like it when you give us a guess, though.
I know. I'm going to go
Roy Cooper, Mark Kelly. Roy Cooper from North Carolina governor.
Who is the Kentucky one?
Andy Beshear.
Andy
That's my
Beshear.
guess.
Yeah, I'm feeling that also.
Yeah. He's young. He's the youngest. I think he's like in his 40s. He's young.
Young. How old's JD Vance?
He's young. He's really young.
He's also in his 40s, I think.
Yeah.
So that would be an interesting race. Gosh, what if Kamala Harris's campaign is listening? Like, call us. We'll come down and help you. I would love to work on a U.S. campaign because they're just so different than ours, and the resources and the operation is incredible.
There's lots of cool ways to get involved too, which I think is interesting. She's doing a lot of like big meetups online.
Yeah.
She's engaging people. I assume the Trump campaign is doing the same thing, but I think if you're interested, then look into it. Look into ways to be involved, because I think it's a unique, or at least be informed, because what is happening, and I think we should talk about this next, what is happening south of the border could have even a profound effect on Canada, on our next election, but also on our most important relationship with our biggest trading partner, the US.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that. How does all this drama
play into Canada? And I will say,
our drama feels so minor now, doesn't it? It feels so like, gosh, we've been going on and on about all this stuff.
Do you know what? I feel the opposite. I think our drama is like really manageable. It's something that people can connect with. In the US, it's such a big production. It's like the global. I know, but how does the average voter relate to that? No wonder people are tired of politics in the US, because it's such a big apparatus. At least in Canada, we have more of an ability to interact with our politicians. We're smaller population. I think I'd like Canadian politics. And I will say, as a caveat, because we did talk about Kamala a lot, we're watching the Trump campaign too. And I'm not a fan, not a fan of Trump. Does that make sense?
For our listeners, you're not a Republican.
I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Trumper, but I do like a good campaign. And I do think that there's a lot of interesting aspects to the Trump campaign, to the positions that he's put forward, like in the campaign, not his positions like on reproductive health and women's rights and things like that, but the way that he has changed the narrative in politics, the way that he has committed to this persona and the campaign, and even like we talked about, standing up and putting his fists in the air, like what a candidate, what a fascinating person to watch. Again, we don't have a horse in this race because thank goodness we live in Canada. But I did want to mention that the Trump campaign is something we're watching too. And I think it's only going to get more interesting. So
for sure.
Let's shift to Canada now. Okay, we have to go back.
We do. Wait, I have one more thing.
Oh, okay.
So I just have to say
that
one of the best lines coming out of the Kamala Harris campaign was on her first big speech, her contrast between herself and Trump, which I think is going to be the defining contrast of this campaign. And she said, and I quote, she was referring to her time as California's Attorney General. And she said, I took on perpetrators of all kinds, predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say I know Donald Trump's type. In this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week. Bam.
Mic drop.
Right?
Lion
so
Kamala.
this framing of like the attorney general who prosecuted versus the convicted felon.
Yeah, well,
is awesome positioning.
You know, Biden tried to play that up too.
But he didn't do it well.
Of course not.
No.
What's going on with that guy? I just feel so bad for him. I hope he takes
sad for him too.
retirement and works on his golf game a little bit. Okay, let's talk about Canada because we're running out of time here. Let's go back. We all know that there was this incredible, right when we wrapped the season, there was about to be this by-election in St. Paul's. Everyone thought the Liberals had it in the bag. Even Jenny Byrne, who's the conservative strategist, said on TV, like the night of the by-election, we're not going to win this. 100% we're not going to win this. The next morning, I woke up, saw the results, and the Conservatives had taken it, which everyone was talking about as a litmus test for Prime Minister Trudeau. So after that, there was a lot of calls, and very parallel to the US, for Trudeau's resignation. So far, we haven't heard from him. They've been on summer break. The only media that I've seen was a few days ago, a right-wing media outlet chased him down again on that Tofino beach. I mean, how many times does he have to get run after on that beach? I will say, I watched that interview. I thought he did really well. I know everyone's going to write in and be like, you love Kamala and you're supporting Trudeau, but I have to be fair.
Are you a fake conservative?
Am I a fake conservative? No. Pierre for PM. Woo! Axe the tax. There we go. But I just thought that he handled that really well. And his messaging was actually a lot clearer than in a lot of his scripted appearances. But will Trudeau go? And what's happening with their caucus meetings? And does the Biden decision to step down mean that Trudeau will eventually see that light too?
Okay, so I have so many thoughts on this.
Okay, so let's hear it.
First thought, I'll try to be quick. First thought is that it's very difficult to compare Biden to Trudeau in this context. While Trudeau faces challenges right now, for sure, one of his challenges is not his inability to campaign.
Right.
In fact, when most people talk about Trudeau, they'll say, don't count him out, because if he's well known to be formidable at something, it is how he campaigns. He's an excellent campaigner. He's a really good communicator. He does well on the debate stage. He's not, nobody's questioning his fitness to serve. You know what I mean? Like this is all. And something, I was on CBC the other day, and one of the panelists, who is a former NDP strategist, said something that I thought was very, very, very well said. She said, with Biden, it was not fixable. You can't fix age. You can't fix health. You can't fix. But with Trudeau, arguably, the issues that he's facing are changeable, fixable. They can pivot. They haven't uncovered everything that could be uncovered in order to change the dial. And 15 months to the next election is a long time to do that. So I think it's just very different scenarios.
So I have to dig into that, because it's a great soundbite. It's an interesting thing to say. But I will say,
she has no horse, right? Like this
exactly.
is not her.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's an interesting insight.
Yeah.
My one thought, though, is that because Biden has been in there for 3.5 years. I was actually thinking my first daughter wasn't even born when Biden was elected, which is crazy, because I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes. The Prime Minister Trudeau has now been there for almost a decade.
Yeah.
At that point, it shifts from who is Justin Trudeau as a person and what has Justin Trudeau accomplished. And I think the problem with trying to fix Justin Trudeau is he can stand on any stage and he can, do impromptu interviews on any beach, looking great, by the way, for those that want to watch it. But he has so many policy faults, and the state of the
that could
country. But
right?
why
Like,
hasn't
that was
he
her
changed
point
it?
too. Well, I think she's just saying that they haven't turned over everything they could turn over.
True.
Like there's things that could be game changers. They haven't done it. They may never do it. It could be an Achilles heel, but there are things that they could turn over that could be big game changers. And with Biden, there just wasn't that option. You can't make him 15 years younger. You can't, if he's having health, you can't change that. And I thought that was interesting. Now, here's the other thing I will say though. As you know, and we have actually said this many times, I have said there's no way that there's enough time for the Liberal Party to be able to hold a nomination. But listen, we're 100 days away from the US election, and they have a brand new person who's injecting all kinds of energy and excitement and fundraising. So I think the Conservatives are shaking in their boots right now. Oh yeah. Because I think that they're like, holy God, we've spent all this time talking about Trudeau's resignation. What if he does resign?
Here's the difference. There's no VP in Canada. There's no succession plan in the Liberal Party of Canada. There's nobody that Canadians already know that they're like, yeah, that Justin guy, goodbye, hello, blank. Even Mark Carney, who I've seen polls that would pull ahead of Trudeau if running at this point, would not pull the way Kamala Harris has pulled. And that's a big problem for the Liberals.
We don't know that.
Let's put him in and see. JT can go hang out on the beach forever, but it's. I kind of agree with you, and I think that when Biden announced, I think it gave Justin Trudeau more runway. I think that Canadians are focused on this U.S. election. If he really was going to leave, now would be the time and say, you know what, I'm gone. Everyone's focused on Trump and Kamala and Biden. This would have been his window. And so for me, that really signified that this was not going to happen, that we are, in fact, going to see Justin Trudeau as the candidate for the Liberals in the next federal election. And I also think that there's been a lot of talk about the fact that he is their best shot, regardless of how badly he's doing. Like I said, there's nobody in the wings. There's nobody that's going to poll better than him over the next few months. And frankly, as a Pierre supporter, I'm happy to hear that. And I almost was nervous after that by-election that they would pull him and somebody else would come in that would
apparently there's lots of time if they do.
There's so much time compared to the US.
Next July.
Holy moly.
Right?
I can't even. Yeah. But the interesting part of this also is the caucus around Trudeau. Since Biden's stepping down, we've heard less members of parliament coming out, Liberal members, and asking for Trudeau's resignation. I know they had a small meeting a couple of weeks ago, and nothing big's come out of the Liberal camp over the last few weeks.
People were, speculating on a cabinet shuffle.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
My
friend, Seamus O'Regan, who I have all the time in the world for, has announced that he will not be running in the next election. That's a big loss for the Liberal Party. He is an excellent member of parliament. He's been an excellent minister under a number of portfolios. So it's really sad to see him go. And I think it's really important that the party is seen to have strong candidates, obviously. So whenever you lose a really kind of marquee candidate, it's a challenge for sure.
It is. And I think it's something we'll see more of as we get closer. It was something that we saw that in the Harper government as we got closer to the 2015, those pillar people that are holding the party together under this prime minister's leadership. So needless to say, it's been a couple of weeks.
Well, it was worthy of this episode, right?
It sure was. It sure was.
Not a lot of things,
and I just want
that we're going to bring us back.
I know. I want to just throw in, because we are thinking about the people in Jasper, Alberta, which is just dealing with these horrific wildfires. And we want to give a special shout out to the people that are fighting those fires, the people that have lost homes and properties and all of the heartache around that situation. So our minds are with them as they go through this very difficult time. But with that, we could sit here for 10 hours and break this down, and we will when we come back with our second season in a month and a bit. And we have some.
In the meantime, if you're craving a little bit of politics, you can always follow us on Instagram, where we are still sharing the news and our point of view on it.
We absolutely are. And if you're wondering when we're back, mid-September. We have some big announcements coming, so stay tuned. And that's it for this episode. We hope you've enjoyed. We'll see you in September.
See you next time.
Bye.